Hey, good morning, YouTubers. Yeah, so calling you from Portland, Maine today. Kind of chilly, wicked chilly. But anyways, so I keep saying I'm a terrible photographer, but I love YouTube, and I've done a few on here. That basically how I approach it is, if I'm trying to do a job and man, I'm running into troubles, is like, man, if I can offer a hand that might help you out. So again, sometimes seeing it can be really helpful. So that's where I am. And again, I'll apologize for the photo. I don't have setups like a lot of guys. Man, it's unbelievable. They go to great lengths to do it. So I just try to get the point across. A couple of things on this job particularly is like, wow, had I known. So I'm going to switch the camera around here. And the task was changing the bearing on a Husqvarna ST 224 snowblower, and it's pretty easy. There's other YouTubes about how to break the machine apart. This Husqvarna is really very simple, just 4 bolts basically to hold it on. But anyway, so the 2 points I want to point out is like, this is, I call it atypical. I didn't see anything online to identify this, but the bearing is actually within this bracket here, this whole bracket. This is basically just stamped steel, and the bearing just is, it's not really pressed in there actually. I thought I was going to have a nightmare getting it out before I figured out how to do this. But anyway, so yeah, these 4 bolts come out, and I will stay with this. The other complication is like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can just get those bolts from inside here. And ultimately, you can rotate this wheel in the flat spot. You can just get that in there if you work it. It will go in and out. At least mine did. You can play with it, angle it, and just pop it in. That one's even tighter, but get the head square as best you can in it. I ended up getting it in. I think you should be able to. But then I was like, well, the bottom one down in the corner is like, where is it? It's not there. And ultimately, I don't know how it'd be possible to get it. It's up higher than these. That's why it doesn't show up when that flat spot comes around. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to take the auger out. So then that was complication number 2. I was trying to figure out. Hold my video here. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just pop this bushing, a bearing, whatever you want to call it. This is actually a bearing. It's pretty well made, actually. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just pop that off. And then I was like, well, that's not going to work because the rod comes all the way through. There's no way it was going to just pull out of the housing. So I was like, well, and I didn't see anything. How's that work? I don't, it's got to come apart. And I was like, oh, do I take the whole rod out? Slide out? And ultimately, no, it's a simple answer. Pretty genius, actually. And I figured it out through the parts diagram for this model. You have this. The bearing simply goes into the tube, and it bolts. I thought that was a shear bolt, but it's not. The shear bolt is inside, so this is actually a bolt that makes sense. It just holds the stem, goes into the drive shaft that goes across there. So just pull that out, just 2 bolts, simple screws that come out, and you end up with that. Obviously you'll have clearance to get because ultimately I'm going to have to just pull this whole auger assembly out to get to that bolt. I can't figure out any other way to get it. Just crow's foot. I don't think anything would work. So not too bad. And this will slide right out because all that holds the assembly in is this is the rod that goes through the bearing. You don't have to undo this to pull the auger out, because that's ultimately what we're going to do. This is the bolt in question that I can't get to right here. So, and the other huge thing is like, so this was on here, this pulley, and you notice something odd about that? Yeah, the nut is welded on. It's a threaded pulley. I've never seen that. If you look at it, you're going to be deceived because you're going to see threads coming out in that nut, and you're thinking, probably at least I did, I was like, oh, okay, I'll just pop that. Maybe and it wasn't seized, there was no rust. So I took a 2-foot pry bar, and it was, I think, a 13/16 socket. These are all standard size bolts, SAE standards. But I was